Hi guys, this is the textbook project for Excel Chapter 4. Now I know that the textbook projects for these later chapters are not actually an assignment. There's nothing in Cengage where you're going to have to turn anything in, but I am still going to do those projects because it's going to go through the things that you need to be able to do in the rest of your assignments. So in this instance, you can follow along with me. I would recommend that you still do what's in the textbook because it's going to help you with your projects. But this is not something you're going to have to turn in. So in our case, you just need to open up a blank Excel workbook and we're going to get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to apply the integral theme. So I'm going to change that to integral. And then in cell C3, we're going to put in mortgage payment calculator. Okay. And then we're going to merge and center C3 through F3. Home tab, merge and center. And then we're going to set this as a title style. And we're going to middle align it. Okay, in cell C4, we're going to type in date. And then in D4, we're going to use the now function. And then we're going to format that under date. And we're going to use this 14 March 12. Sorry, we want the 2012. Whoops. Keep going down. Where is it? There it is. This last one. Say OK. And then in your book, you have a table of cells and what text that they want in there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you can either look in your book. It's on page 189. Or you can just follow along with what I'm doing. So item in C5 and C6 price, then down payment. Payment is abbreviated PYMT, loan amount. And really, since this is not for a grade, it really doesn't matter if you have typos or misspellings. The important thing is going to be the formulas that we're going to do. So, and then rate in E4, term, total interest, and total cost. Okay. So we're going to adjust column widths and row heights. And again, the book tells you to grab the edge and try to do pixels. I'm going to right click and say column width because it goes a whole lot faster. So 0.92 for A and B. For C, we want it to be 12. For D and E, we want it to be 16. And F, sorry, F is supposed to be 16 also. Okay. Then row 1 and 2. Row 1 and 2, we're going to do a row height of 9 pixels. And that's all we are going to adjust there. Okay, your sheet 1 tab, we're going to rename that to mortgage payment calculator. And then we're going to save this as NCU mortgage payment calculator. And I know I misspelled that. That's okay. Okay, now we're going to create cell names. So creating cell names allows us to use those names in formulas, and sometimes that's a whole lot easier than trying to do, D5 or D6 or, G10 or whatever. It really gives you a much more clear picture of what your formula or your function is doing. So I'm going to, we're going to format some cells first, and then we're going to enter in data, and then we're going to create those cell names. So I'm going to do, I want D6 through D8, and then I want F6 through F8. And we're going to format these cells as currency. And we want this second one for negative numbers. And say OK. And then we're going to enter in some data. So we're going to put in house here for the price is, and I'm sorry, for house we want to right align it. The price is $42,900. Down payment is $85,000. In F4, the rate 4.125%. And we're going to change that the decimal places on the percentage in a minute. 15 for the number of years. And let me go ahead and we're going to we want to increase decimal places. So we want 3 decimal places on F4 for the rate. Okay, now we're going to actually create our cell names, and we're going to create our cell names based on the row headings. So these row headings here that are going to be used in our calculations, we want to actually create names based on these row names. So I'm going to select C6 through D8, and then I'm going to go to my Formulas tab, and here is Defined Names, and I'm going to say Create from Selection. Okay, and here it says create names from the values in, and we want to say the left column because that's where our names are, and just say OK. So now if you come in here, you'll notice you have now down payment, loan amount, and price. If I click on down payment, it takes you to that cell that we now named down payment. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for E4 through F8. Create from selection, the left column, and say OK. And now you can see we've got a whole bunch more. Okay. If you hear that in the background, that is my cat sneezing. Now to continue on. So now we're going to create a formula to determine our loan amount. So we're going to say equal, and we're going to type in price, and you'll see now our name here comes up. And so I want that price minus, and start typing down, and you'll see down payment comes up. Okay, so now in our formula, instead of referencing D6 minus D7, we now have price minus down payment. And it's much easier to read when you do that. Okay. Now, we need to create our monthly payment. So we're going to use a function called PMT. PMT is a payment function, and it calculates what your payment would be, which would be, principal plus interest. Okay. So our monthly payment, we're going to do a minus. You need to do a minus sign to begin with because it's we want the PMT function will return a negative value. So we want that value to be positive because we don't make a negative payment. We make a positive payment. So you put a negative in front of it so that we get a positive value out of it. PMT, and we're going to open up our parentheses, our rate. So instead of going up here and clicking on F4, I'm going to actually type in rate. And there's our field, our name cell. We're going to divide that by 12 because that's an annual percentage rate and we want a monthly payment. So we need to divide that by 12. And then we have our number of payments. So your number of payments is going to be the term, which is in years, times 12, because again, we're doing a monthly payment. So we're going to do 12 times term. And then you're going to do a comma, and then you're going to do a loan amount, which is our principal value. Okay, and then I'm going to close my parentheses. And I'm going to hit enter. Okay. In F7, we are going to calculate our total amount of interest. So our total amount of interest is going to be this monthly payment, okay, times our term, which is 15 years. So it's actually 12 times our term because we got that many monthly payments, okay, times our monthly payment is, and then subtract that our loan amount, and that gets our total interest. So I'm going to do 12 times our term times our monthly payment, and then from that I'm going to subtract the loan amount. Okay, so that's the amount of interest that we paid over 15 years on a house that we took out a loan of $344,000. So then your total cost is going to be the price times, or not times, plus the total interest is going to be your total cost. So for a $429,000 house at 4.125% interest over 15 years, you're going to actually end up paying $546,903.13. Okay, you can go through and change the values in here to get the data to, you know, test out different numbers, and you'll see how the calculations automatically update, which is really nice. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to create underneath here a varying interest rate schedule. So if your interest rate changes and we have a different interest rate, then, you know, what is our how is our monthly payment, total interest, and total cost going to change based on that varying interest rate? Okay, so we're going to put in varying interest rate, or varying interest rate schedule. Okay, and then I'm going to use my format painter to format the same as what we did the up top. And then down here, I'm going to put my column headings of rate and monthly payment, total interest, and total cost. Okay, from here we want to adjust some row heights. Well, we're going to right align these columns first. So C10 through F10, we're going to right align those. And then row 9, we're going to adjust that row height to be 20.25. And row 10, we're going to adjust that row height to be 17.25. Okay. And then we're going to go into C12, and we're going to type in 3.0%. And then in C13, we're going to put in 3.125%. And then we're going to use Autofill to fill this down. So I want to select both of these to autofill. Because then what's going to happen is when I do this, it's automatically going to increment by 0.125%. And we want to actually go down to cell C22. Okay, and then with all of it selected, we're going to increase our decimal places. Okay, then go to cell D11. In D11, our monthly payment is going to be equal to F6, okay, which is our monthly payment. Okay. And our total interest is F7, which is our total interest. Whoops. Total interest. And then our total cost. Okay, and we'll format that. Well, we'll go ahead and format that. We're going to right click, format cells, currency, and we want this red, just like we did previously. Okay? So now we're going to do a what if analysis to create a data table. Okay? So we're going to select C11 through F22, and then under data, we're going to do what if analysis, and we're going to say data table. And then we're going to go into our column input cell, and we're going to put F4. Okay, and the F4 is going to be an absolute value, and you're going to get that just by clicking on it. It's going to by default make it an absolute value, and say okay. This will now calculate everything based on this information. It calculates everything because it's saying, okay, here 4.125% is what these were here. So if these are 4.125%, then they can now take that calculation to calculate the rest of it. So that's what we essentially did, is that we identified these are our starting numbers here. We identified what that interest rate was, and then we can go forward from there. Okay, now we're going to format these cells as currency, but we're going to have no symbol, but we still want the red negative. Okay, next step is we're going to create an amortization schedule. So column G, we're going to change the width of that to 0.92. So basically that column is just providing us a space between our different tables. In H3, column H, we want it to be 6 pixels. And then I through L, we want it to be 16. Okay, and then in H3, we're going to type in amortization schedule, if I can talk. Okay, again, we're going to take our format painter. Okay, but notice our format painter only went through K, and that's because this had merged 4 cells, so this is going to merge 4 cells. We want it to actually do 5, so we're going to click Merge and Center to unmerge it, and then click H through L, H3 through L3, and then Merge and Center again. Now it's merged over our entire range that we want. Okay, and then across the top, we're going to do year. We're going to do beginning balance, ending balance, Sorry, that didn't tab like it was supposed to. K4 is paid on principal. And then L is interest paid. Okay, from here, in H5, we're going to type 1 for the year. In H6, we're going to type 2. And then we're going to select both of those and autofill down to 15. Okay, so we're introducing 2 more functions. One is the if function, and the if function gives us a condition, and then if we have a true value, it gives us one result, and then if we have a false value, it gives you another result. I believe we did if functions in the last chapter, so we're going to be doing it again. The other function that we're going to be introducing is the PV function, or present value, or sorry, not PV. No, it is PV. Yeah, present value of annuity. Okay, in cell I5, we're going to enter in D8, which is our loan amount. Okay, so we have our loan amount as our beginning balance. Kind of makes sense, right? And then in J5, so basically we want to calculate what our ending balance is based on our if statement is basically, okay, if H5, so if this year is less than this year, then we need to calculate our ending balance based on the number of payments that we've made. So at the end of year 1, what is the balance on our loan? Okay, so we're going to do an if statement. So we're going to do an equal and say if, and then we're going to say if H5 is less than or equal to our term, okay, if that is a true statement, then we're going to do present value, and then we have our rate divided by 12 is our monthly rate. And then 12 times why did we divide that by 12? Oh. F5, or we're going to do our term again minus H5, or H5 here. Okay, the number of years. So that gives us our present value. I think that gives us our present value. Sorry, no it doesn't. 12 times, and we need to do, I messed it up. 12 times our term minus H5. So we want to do that subtraction before we do the multiplication, because that gives us the year that we're in. Okay, and then we'll put a negative F6, which is our monthly payment. Okay, so this is the other way that you can get a positive value, is by putting a negative number here for monthly payment. Okay, and then close out, if the value is false, then we have a 0, and then close out our if statement, and we should get that. Okay, paid on principal, cell K5, is going to be equal to our beginning balance, which is I5, minus our ending balance. Okay? And then our interest paid is, again, we're going to do an if statement. If I5 is greater than 0, so if we have a, beginning balance, then it's going to be 12 times F6, which is our monthly payment. And then if it's false, 12 times our monthly payment minus K5, which is our paid on principal. And then otherwise it's a 0. Now, we should be able to take these except for the beginning balance. We're going to take ending balance through interest paid, and we're going to drag it down. Okay, notice that by using the named cell, it automatically made it an absolute value, which is what we want. So the other way of creating these formulas would have been to do an absolute value for these cell names. Okay, so now our beginning balance. Notice these are zeros because our beginning values is not greater than 0. So therefore we have a false value and we're supposed to put in a 0. That means our if statement is working properly, which is good. Okay, so our beginning balance then is going to be J5 just J5. Our beginning balance is our ending balance from the year previously. I had to think for a second. And then we're going to take the fill handle there and drag it down. Now it fills in correctly, and it says here at the end of the 15 years, we have a 0 balance, and there's all of our information. Okay, so from here, we're going to format cells. Again, this is going to be currency with the red negative, and this is also going to be currency, except for this time we're not going to use a symbol. Okay? Okay, and then we're going to enter in our totals in the amortization schedule. So in J20, we're going to do subtotal. Here we want down payment. Total cost. Okay, so our subtotals, we want to total these two up. So I'm going to select K20 through L20, and I'm going to hit the auto sum so that it totals both of those up. Our down payment is going to be equal to D7 again, which is our down payment. Okay, and our total cost is going to be K20 plus L20. Hold on a second. I missed something. Oh, that's the reason why. I did this before too. This value should actually be over here in in L21 and not K21. Okay, and because we use down payment, it stays the same. And then in J22, we put the total cost. Okay, and in L22, we're going to do an equal, and here we want the K20 plus L20, so our principal plus our interest plus our down payment, and hit enter. And this number should match that number, and it does. So that means our amortization schedule is working properly, all of our formulas are working properly, and we're doing pretty darn good. Okay, so most of our formulas and everything, well, all of our formulas and everything are done. So we're going to work on some borders and some shading, and just to make this whole thing look a little bit better, a little bit more pleasing to the eye, kind of separate the payment calculator from the interest rate schedule and the amortization schedule, so on and so forth. We're also going to go through how to name ranges of cells, so you can, you know, pick a selection to be printed or something like that. So that's what we're going to do next. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to do this mortgage payment calculator. Okay, so we're going to select actually C4 through F8, and we're going to go to Format Cells, and we're going to go to the Border tab. So the first thing we want is the color is going to be this blue accent 2. Okay, and then we want the medium border style, which is this first solid line over on your right hand side. From here, we're going to choose outline. We want that larger blue border to outline our selection. Then we want the thin, so this small, I think they call it small, light. Sorry, they call it light border or light line. And we're going to choose the vertical. So all of the interior cells, the vertical line will have a border on it, and say OK. So now you can see what that looks like. Okay. Then we're going to do C10 through F22. And we're going to do essentially the same thing. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to say Format Cells. It's already on border. I'm going to select the color that I want the medium outline and the thin vertical. Okay. And then say OK. So now we have our border, but now I also want to put an underline under this. So I want to separate my heading, my column headings from the rest of the table. So I'm going to select C10 through F10. And again, I'm going to go to my borders, and I want the thin line, and I'm going to do a bottom border on that range of cells and say OK. So now it looks like that. Okay. Now the amortization schedule, and this is going to be a little bit different as well. Okay, so I'm going to take the H4 through L22, and I'm going to go to my Format Cells, and I'm going to go to my border. I'm going to select my color, and I do want the medium. And I'm going to do an outline like I did before, and I'm going to do the light, and I'm going to do the vertical like I did before. Okay, so that's the same as it was before, but now I want to separate my my column headings from the rest of the table. I also want to separate my totals from the rest of the table. So we can do this in 2 steps. You can do it where you select this and do a bottom, and you can select this and do a top. Or you can select 1 through 15 and go all the way across, and in one click of the menu, do a top and a bottom and say OK. So that gave us the borders that we want in those spots. Okay, next is we want to actually put a border around the whole thing. Again, we're just kind of trying to set it off from everything else. To do this, we actually have to, we're going to change some of our column and row sizes. So in M, we're going to change that column width to 0.92. And row 23, we are going to change that row height to 9. Okay? And then we're going to actually select B2 through M23. Okay, now we're going to do our format cells again. This time I want to choose this green, this dark green accent 5. And I want the heavy one, which is this bottom one down here, the second solid one. And I'm going to do outline as I did before. But now I'm also going to go to fill. And I'm going to say background white 1. I think it's white background 1 is what it's actually called. And say OK. So what this did is it got rid of our cell, our little gray cell borders. It outlined the whole thing, which makes it look nice and pretty. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to highlight. We're going to do a conditional formatting on this rate. So what we want is for these cells, for this cell, one of these cells, to be highlighted when the rate is the one that's chosen up here in the top. So I'm going to select C12 through C22, go to conditional formattings, highlight cell rules, and I'm going to say equal to. And from this, I'm going to actually select F4 and then say OK. So now, whenever this changes, this conditional formatting will change. Okay, finally, we're going to set up some named print areas. Okay, so I'm going to come in here and I want to select the mortgage payment calculator. And in this name box where it says C3, I'm going to type in mortgage payment. Make sure you put an underscore between mortgage and payment because it does not take spaces. Okay. Then I'm going to take the interest rate schedule and I'm going to name it interest schedule. Again, with an underscore for the space between the words. And then I'm going to take the amortization schedule. And gee, what do you think we're going to name it? Amortization schedule. And then finally, I'm going to select the whole area that we have shaded. And then I'm going to name that financial tools. So if I wanted to be able to print a particular area, I could hit my drop down arrow and choose amortization schedule. It's going to select that schedule or that area that we named. And then I can go to file and say print. And then I can say print selection and it'll print just the selection that we have selected. So it makes it a little bit easier to print certain things. Okay, finally, the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to learn how to protect the worksheet. Okay, so if you're using this in a business environment, and you're wanting this information to stay the same. You're wanting this information to stay the same. You don't want anybody coming in and messing with your formulas. So you want this all to stay the same. You want all of this to stay the same as far as the formulas. The only thing that you want to change is the item, the price, the down payment, the term, and the rate. And maybe not even the term if you're going to say this is a 15-year term period, but it could be 5 years. If it's 30 years, well then this schedule is not going to use it. But this gives us a start. So what we want to do is we want to make it so that you can't change any of this information. You can only change those few pieces. Okay, so I'm going to select the range D5 through D7, which were the ones that I said that we wanted to change, as well as F4 and F5. Okay, then I'm going to right click on one of them, and I'm going to go to Format Cells, and I'm going to go to the Protection tab, and I'm going to uncheck this locked. What this means is that when we turn on the protection of this worksheet, those cells will not be locked. Everything else by default will be locked. These cells will not, because these are the ones that we want to be able to change. So we're going to say OK. And then I'm going to go to the Review tab over here, and I'm going to say Protect Sheet. So select, it allows you to be able to select cells, locked cells as well as unlocked cells, so you can see the formulas that are behind them. Okay, but you're not going to be able to change anything in the locked cells. You can put a password in here if you want to. I'm not going to, and I'm going to say OK. So now if I come in here and I type, it comes up and says, oh, it's protected. You can't do that. Okay, but if I came in here and changed this to a 10-year term, my formulas all update like they would before, but you can't change the formulas. You see different numbers, but you can't change the formulas. So that's how you protect a sheet. You can also protect an entire workbook doing the same thing. Okay, and if you need to unprotect it, you just come in and say unprotect. And if you had given it a password, you would have to give that password. Okay. And that is really, so they do talk about hiding and unhiding a workbook or a worksheet. So if we have a second worksheet in here, you can come in here and say hide. Okay. And that hides that worksheet. So if you have a worksheet that has formulas and other things like that, then you can hide it so that people don't see what that is, you know, especially if it is proprietary. When I want to unhide it, I can right click and say unhide. A little menu will come up and you choose the sheet that you want to unhide. And there it is. You can also do that for an entire workbook. It's pretty much about the same steps, except for you go to the View tab. Okay. And in the View tab, you're going to go to Hide. And then the same thing, unhide if you need to do that. Okay. And that's about it. And so you can save this, go back and use it as reference, whatever else. I know that you do this data table in your homework assignments, and I'm sure you're going to do an amortization schedule or something along those lines as well. All of these types of formulas you're going to be using. So hope y'all have a great day. I will do the same thing for Excel Chapter 5. Again, that is not one that is going to be due as far as homework is concerned, but I will go through the reasoning by and how to do certain steps to be able to help you with that. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.